All right, so we are going to start talking about domain and range. So domain is the set of all possible x values which will make the function work and will output real y values. So another way to say this is the domain is the set of all inputs. Okay, so when we're talking about domain, some words that are related to domain are input, x-coordinate, and independent. And we will talk about independent variables, which is the set of the domain, in the next video. Okay, our range is the resulting y values after we get after substituting all possible x values. So basically the range is the set of all output. Okay, this is our y values. So again, my range is my output, the y values, and we will talk about dependent variables in the next video. All right, so let's look at this first example here. So we're going to look, is this a function? Well, first off, do I have any repeating x values? And I do. So this is not a function because when we look at the y value associated with that x value, it's different in both. So the 4 repeats twice with a different output each time. All right, so now we're going to look at writing the domain. Now, when we write the domain, we will use these curly brackets to say we have a set of numbers. Okay, we're not going to use regular parentheses. We are using the curly brackets. That is just standard to say we have a set of something. All right, and we're going to list out all of our x values. Now, when I write out these x values, I'm going to write them from least to greatest, and I'm only going to write the number once if it appears multiple times. So because, can I wait to erase? So because my 4 appears twice, I am only going to write it once, okay? So because that 4 repeats, we're only writing it one time. And we'll do the same thing with a range. So the range is all our y values. So in this set of points, it's that second number. And again, we're going to list them from least to greatest. And if a number repeats, we only write it once. All right, so let's look at another one. Is this one a function? So let's circle all or highlight. I'm going to highlight all my x values. So we've got a -7, -6, -4. Okay, so these are in the yellow are all my x values. So those are my domain, right? Okay, I have a -6 that repeats twice. Do I have the same number, same y value with it? Well, I've got a -8 here and 4 there. Okay, so no, this is not a function. Why? The -6 repeats twice with a different output each time. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to list all our domain, which is all of my x values. So we've got -7, -6, -4, -8, and we're not going to write this 6 a second time because we only need it once in our domain. Okay, and then we're going to list out our range, which remember it's the y value, so it's the second point in our graph. Oops. was not paying attention where I was clicking. There we go. Y values. Okay, so we get -8, -6, 4 and 5. And let's double check that we got all of them. So we got -8. Yep, we got -8, -6, 4, and 5. Okay, we've got all of them. Okay, so now looking at this. So remember, in a table, the left or the top column is my X values. Typically they're labeled X, but occasionally we won't be labeled. We'll be labeled with something else. So this will be my X column, which is my domain column. So the left column is my domain, the right is my range. But let's first look and see, is this a function? Okay, this is not a function, and why would I say it's not a function? Well, I've got 6 here, and I've got 6 here. Okay, do I have the same output or Y value for those? No. So my 6 repeats twice with a different output each time. All right, so we're going to list the domain. So remember, when we're listing domain, we go from least to greatest. So I'm going to go -8, 0, 5, and then 6. And remember, we only list a value once. We don't list it twice. So then we're going to look at the range. And again, least from greatest. So 0, 2, 5, 6, and then 8. I'm going to look at another example here. So is this a function? So looking down, do I have any repeating inputs or X values? No. So this is a function. Every input has exactly one output. All right, so listing the domain, I'm just going to list these values here from least to greatest. So we've got -7, -1, 0, 1, and 3. And then we're going to go ahead and list the range, which is the Y values. Whoops. Okay, and we list those from least to greatest. So -3, -1, 2, and 6. And again, guys, remember, we only list a value once. If it repeats, we only write it one time. All right, so in a mapping diagram, remember that this will be my X values, and this is my Y's. So my input and my output. Now, remember we talked about we need to look for the arrows to determine whether it's a function or not. Okay, so looking at each of these numbers, they each only have 1. So yes, it is a function because every input has exactly one output. All right, so in a mapping diagram, we typically write them from least to greatest, from top to bottom, and we don't repeat a number. So all you have to do with a mapping diagram is list the numbers there. So my domain in this is -4, -3, 1, and 6. Okay, and the range is going to be the numbers in this one. It's going to be 2, 6, and 7. All right, so is this a function? Okay, the answer would be no, and why? Why? Because 3 goes not only to 2, but 3 also goes to 6. So the -3 repeats twice with a different output each time. Okay, our domain, guys, remember, is the left column or the left oval. So -6, -3, -1, 3. And our range is the right. All right, and remember the range we get from that second oval on the right. And it is 2, 4, 6, and 7. All right, so we're going to look, is this a function? And remember, if we do a vertical line test, we can tell right here, right, if I were to draw a vertical line here, I'd pass through 2 points, wouldn't I? So no, this is not, it does not pass the vertical line test. All right, but now we're going to talk about finding domain and range. Now remember, on a graph, okay, this is my x-axis, this is my y. So I'm going to list, oh, that's a terrible y. So I'm going to list out my points. So here we've got -3, -4. This one is -3, 0, okay, because I go left 3, oof. All right, this point here is -1, -3. Up here we have the point 0, comma, we go up 3. And this point here is 3, comma 3. And this point here is 2, comma -2. All right, so just be like I would with a set of points. I'm going to list them out from least to greatest. Guys, the easiest way to do this I have found is when you're writing the domain, come over here to the left side and list your x values going this direction. So I've got -3, then I'd have -1, 0, 2, and 3. So -3. Now because there's 2 of those, remember I only list it once. -1, 0, 2, and 3. And then with the range, we're going to start from bottom to top. So -4, -3, -2, 0, and 3. Again, I only write that once, even though it repeats. Okay, so we're going to look at another one. So is this a function? Well, if I draw a vertical line through every point, it only touches 1 point at a time. So yes, it is a, okay, every input has exactly 1 output, or we could say that passes the vertical line test. My pen thing there. All right, so listing my points, I've got to go left, which makes it -5. And I go down 4, which makes it -4 here. My next point is going to be, well, let's see, I go left 3, so -3, up 1. Got the point here, -1, comma, go down 3. This point here is 0, comma 3. And we go right 3 here and up 4. And our final point is 5, comma, -3. All right, so again, domain, I'm going to work from left to right and list out all my x values. So we've got -5, -3, -1, 0, 3, and 5. And my range, I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. So I get -4, -3, 1, 3, and 4.